welcome everyone to this strategy panel discussion for Rocky Raccoon 100 and Rocky 50 by USWE, our Tejas Trails races coming up here in February. And my name is Dave Smithy. I am the general manager for Tejas Trails and will be race directing both of those races under the support of Chris McWaters, the owner of Tejas Trails. And we've got a really wonderful group here who've got a lot of experience with the race, have been there and done that with this race. And we're very thankful to Powered by Halo for organizing this discussion. They are providing a hotel block at a hotel in Huntsville. I'll let Hillary and Maggie tell you the details, but they do an awesome job of throwing a great party for those who want to get in on what's a good price for a hotel, but even better price for the additional swag and support and breakfast and coffee and whatever else that comes with that. So I'll let us go around the horn here for the panel to introduce yourselves. And Hillary, you can jump right in on top of the Powered by Halo and kick us off.
All right, thanks, Dave. I'll keep this quick. I'll keep this super quick. My name's Hillary. I'm from Powered by Halo. I'm the founder, and I started this company just out of my personal frustrations with traveling for trail races. I live in New York City, so I travel quite a bit for these trail races, and figuring out where to stay is also always a logistical nightmare. And so we created a booking platform that just makes it really streamlined and kind of puts everybody together under one roof. So we've been working with Tejas Trails for a while, and yeah, love to be a part of these races. I'm also from Louisiana, so always a pleasure to kind of get to know the Texas trail running community a little bit more. So
great. Well, Maggie, we'll keep it empowered by Halo. Why don't you go next?
Yeah, I'm Maggie Gutturl. I'm working with Hillary, and it's been super fun. My first sub 24 trail race, my first sub 24 trail 100 was Rocky Raccoon, and actually Nicole was there. We didn't meet because she was too fast. And I met a whole bunch of people there that I'm still friends with. So it's an awesome race. So it's like really cool, like full circle moment. And that's it. I don't know, I've been running for like 15 years, and I'm excited for everyone to share their Rocky Raccoon experiences. Should I maybe we'll go, we probably go to Chris next.
Yeah, we'll hit Chris and then we'll hit our athletes. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, yeah, don't classify me in the athlete category anymore, punk. I am an old race director.
You just won a Masters event. So
yeah.
Congratulations, old man McWaters.
Yeah. Another story there later. Yeah, haha. So I've been in ownership of Tejas Trails for about 11 years now, and which is crazy to say. And we have been a part of Rocky Raccoon since before that, when I actually did do some ultra trail running more than I did race directing. And so this race is especially important to me. Several of them are in that category, but this is one that I did get to enjoy first as an athlete, and had some incredible life-altering moments out there. But yeah, so Tejas Trails is our baby, and it's been so fun seeing it get to this level and take and do well with what Joe and Joyce started, and someone else started for this race before Joe and Joyce, actually. So I get to be the third manager, and Dave RD is the fourth race director for this event, which is crazy to say. So about year 33, I believe, of Rocky Raccoon.
Wow, awesome.
My math is correct. So there you go.
Thanks, Chris. How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. Similarly to what was conveyed, Nicole Bitter, I've been ultra running, gosh, I think about 15 years, been running for like 33 years. So really dating myself at this point. So running's been a big part of my life. And Rocky Raccoon is the first 100-miler that I ever had run. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And I love going out there and doing the variety of distances. I think I've done most of them at this point. So yes, thanks for having me. And hot potato, I think, Zach.
Yeah. So yeah, my name is Zach Bitter, also known as Nicole's husband. I'm the lesser of accomplished at Rocky, but I have done the 50-mile and the 100-mile. I've actually had a pretty wide range of experiences there. My first 100-mile there, I DNF'd with a really bad ankle roll. Then I went back, I think that was in 2017. And then I went back in 2023 to do the 100-mile and got third. And then in 2024 did the 50-mile on a rainy year. So I won the 50-mile that year. So I've seen the old course, the new course, rainy day, dry day, good ankle, bad ankle, most of the things you can experience in an ultramarathon, I guess.
Very awesome, Zach. Thanks for joining us. How about you, Lindsay?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay, and I'm an ultra runner. I've only done Rocky Raccoon once, but I came out 2 years ago. I grew up in Texas, sadly no longer living in Texas, but my roots are there. And I came out 2 years ago in that really crazy weather year, the like mud fest, and like the crazy weather with the streams rising and flash flooding. But it was a great race. Fantastic experience. We'll talk more about that later, I'm sure. I've done a lot of other races, a lot of other 100s, but only Rocky one.
Cool. Thank you. Did I miss anybody, Maggie?
Yeah, Andy's on. He's
Andy,
in there somewhere.
Glaze, you're out there.
Hi. Hi, I'm Andy Glaze. I've run Rocky 4 times. I have 1 DNF from last year and then 3 finishes. I also ran the crazy muddy year, which was quite the experience. And I've been running ultras for like 12 years and running for like 25. And I love Rocky. It's a fun race. I really like the Texas racing community. And so I keep coming back. And I also really want that giant 5-year buckle. So that's my my overarching goal is to get that buckle.
Cool. We'll have it for you at the finish line, Andy. So let's talk about your first experience. Anybody can answer this. First experience with Rocky Raccoon, and then what was the moment when you realized what's special about this race, and what was it for you? Anybody wants to answer first? I'll call on somebody. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I'll go. The aid station, the aid station volunteers and everyone from the start line to finish, everyone's so welcoming, friendly, and helpful, supportive. If you're out there and you might be really nervous, know you're in good hands. You have a lot of support out there. Those races are hard, so any help you can get, we take that.
I would echo your thoughts. I think it's like true Texan in terms of the cheerfulness of all the aid stations. And it's also a really good one because the aid stations are relatively close. So I enjoy that because I don't really like to carry a lot. So I like to be very minimalist. So I love that you can just get away with having very minimal gear. So that's fun to me.
For sure. What about
I would
that question? Go ahead, Andy. Or when it unraveled, when you figured out something special. Go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to say I echo the aid stations being so close. That's always fun because I run a lot of races that are like big mountain races where I have to carry like 13 pounds of gear. So it's really nice to not have to carry so much. And then the aid stations are like just really, really fun, and everyone's really supportive, and everyone's like just trying to make you successful. And then in general, like I like the flow of the course. I like the way the trails like snake all around, and like the downhills, the uphills, they all feel pretty good. So it's a very runnable course. I mean, you can run the whole thing. You don't have to hike, you don't have to walk if you don't want to. So it's always nice to when you can run an entire 100-mile race.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off Andy. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, also side note, I'm gonna start running, which is on brand, but I will continue on talking just as if you see like this, it's because I'm running.
Those 100-mile weeks don't run themselves, I guess, right, Andy?
That's right.
I was just gonna piggyback off Andy too, because I think one of the unique things about Rocky is it is a very runnable trail, but it's still 100 miles, and it's a loop course, so you're gonna see it in different iterations of the day. So I know when I first did the first year, I went out probably a little bit too fast, and it was still kind of dark. I probably could have had a little bit of better lighting, and I rolled my ankle on one of the routes. So I think just being a little more conservative in the beginning on courses that are very runnable tends to be helpful, because you want to have legs left at the end, and there's really not like a big climb to kind of slow you down and have you sort of like reassess your mechanics or anything like that, because you can really kind of take off really fast out there if you want to. So be mindful of effort on the early stages is usually a good protocol for a course like that one.
Yeah, I remember, Zach, when you rolled your ankle, you were looking so good, and it was a battle royale going on. It was devastating to watch it happen. Felt so bad for you. And I remember, so I had done longer and further before, but Rocky was my first actual straight up 100-mile race. And I don't actually really like looped races. I'm like opposite of Zach. So I'd only done like more gnarly, longer courses out in the middle of nowhere where you really end up, there may be 300 people at the start line, but you end up totally by yourself the entire race. So running a loops course like this one with this Texas love, because I'm an Okie, so this was back when I first moved to Texas when I did Rocky Raccoon all those years ago as a racer. And I just remember kind of being like, I'm not super stoked about a looped course. And it was the coolest experience. And I think it's what is really neat about Rocky Raccoon is that you do end up really getting to run with people the whole way or a lot of it. And even the part that there's an out and back and same thing, I remember kind of dogging that in my head. And I really kind of grew to like that too, because then towards the latter parts of the course, when you're, like the last lap or second last lap and people are more spread out, then you kind of have that energy of seeing people. And whether it's like, whoa, I feel like really bad, but they look worse than I feel. So that makes me feel better about myself. Or like, cool, we're out here together and, I can cheer them on and help them get to the finish line. Kind of works both ways. So that piece of the puzzle was really unique to me back then. So if this is something that you haven't really experienced, you're in for a treat in that regard too.
Cool. That's those are great stories. You guys are all super fast. When I did it, it was even before Tejas Trails, and I did a 50 miler and managed to get up to barely get past all the cutoffs. And it was my first 50 miler, so I loved that. It was a fun way to get an entry into the true ultra world. So, so in all of the crew we have here, which is a very experienced crew, there's got to be a lot of preparation tips coming in here. And so what tell me about a time when you kind of realized your preparation paid off, like at the race, you realized you could go faster, or, your core was all the core work you did, or the muscles to lift your knees, all those kinds of things what were the keys? What preparation really helped you out?
I have a real easy plan. You just have to run like 120 miles every week for like 6 years, and then you'll be really prepared for Rocky Raccoon.
Great.
I think Rocky Raccoon is one of those sneaky courses where you can train in a lot of different environments. I know, like when I did the 100 the first couple of times, I was living in Dallas. And so I mostly did road running. So I really wasn't doing a lot of training on the trails just simply because it didn't exist very accessibly to where I lived. So I think that's kind of the success story is you can train in a lot of different environments and have success. So that's kind of a cool element. I think hitting on Andy's point, I think running and practicing that is what you need for a skill set because so much of it is runnable. So if you are planning to try and run for a lot of it, having those miles pays off as long as you stay upright, which is important.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to the antagonistic part of that. So my first year running Rocky, I had done Bandera as hard as I could 4 weeks prior. And then 2 weeks prior, I did a 24-hour adventure race as hard as I could. And then went to the start line like sore and eating a Pop-Tart, really worried about the day. And then I had a butthead friend that showed up, shout out to Brett, and paced me on lap 3 of 4. And we hadn't seen each other in years. So we had a grand time, bringing up all kinds of good memories. And the idiot paced me to the fastest lap of all of them on accident. And so lap 4 was total misery. And I like lost the use of my lifter muscles. And I think I fell literally like 6 times all the way to the ground because I hung my toe on the roots. And so if you haven't heard about that piece to the puzzle, Rocky Raccoon is known for the roots grow overnight, is what people say. And so I think everyone here can agree to a moment with those roots. So I just would say that in regards to training and final preparations, any lower abs, lower back, those lifter muscles, your groin, your hip flexors, all that is so important because when you do get fatigued and you start doing that shuffle, for those that are like in the middle of the pack, like the ones that are trying to run more than hike, like Andy was saying, it's tricky because a lot of courses you do hike, you strategically hike because it's just as fast or faster than running because the hills are so steep or the mountains are so steep. But out there's really no part of the race course that forces you to hike. But I think that's important to think about in training. And then on race day, to sort of, if you're new to this, or this type of race course, to think like maybe the way to say it is to like get over your pride and be okay hiking strategically and going back and forth. And I think you'll be better off for it, especially on that fourth lap or, you know, getting towards the last 20 miles or so. But that was definitely something that took me off guard. I never would have seen coming, but literally can recall like screaming at the woods, like, are you freaking kidding me? I fell again. Roots got me. Like saying that multiple times, like a total loon yelling over Raven Lake.
Yeah, I'll just add with courses like Rocky, I really like a process where you look at, well, what are the inputs for training that are going to be valuable for your development? And then thinking about, okay, these are all things I'm going to want to do from the start of my training to the race itself. But what order do I do it in, or how do I prioritize certain ones over the others over the course of that training plan? So when you're looking at a 100-miler, it's a long, slower effort usually. So that just means that the stuff that's maybe a little bit faster is going to be better placed a little bit earlier in the plan. And then things are going to be a little more specific, and the things you're going to want to practice to help with that durability over the long stretch should maybe be pushed a little bit closer to the end. So if you think of it like building a really efficient runner in the early stages and then working on the specifics near the end, is sort of that order of operations that I find works really well for these type of courses. And when I can do that right, and, you know, pair it with other things that are helpful with, like, you know, like leg strengthening stuff to help with that knee drive and things like that, then I think I just feel like a little stronger at the end of the race, not like I'm quite as falling apart as I can if I'm not quite as prepared like that.
Cool.
I'm
Zach,
gonna.
I'm sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Zach, as you talked about that process, you know, is there anything that for this race when you using technology? I'm thinking about my watch, you know, and there's some races, it's all about my heart rate because I know I've got all kinds of terrain coming at me, hills and climbs, and so then I'm doing zone training, and then there's others where, you know, it's more pace oriented for me. How does that play into your preparations?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, what I like to do is, since I'm backloading a lot of my longer race specific training, I'm collecting a ton of data during that phase, very close to the race itself. So I'm getting pretty accurate data as to where my fitness is at. So say I'm doing like a series of long runs in the like last couple of months leading into the race itself. I can pool all that data, track all that data in training, and get an idea of just like how I move from a pace standpoint at different levels of fatigue, and just in that intensity that is going to be right around what I'd like to be doing for a 100-miler like at Rocky. Or if you're doing the 50 mile for the 50 mile, or the 100K, the 100K. And then you can start looking at like what that like means from a pace standpoint. You can look at what that means for like a pace on different parts of the course or different trains, and you can use different tools like Pace Pro and things like that are going to help you navigate that maybe a little more smoothly. So you're not guessing like, is this the right pace on this incline or this decline versus this flat section? Although Rocky's going to be a little bit easier to do that just intuitively than some of the mountain courses may be, but you know, those tools are all great. I like heart rate quite a bit, but I like it more as a kind of secondary guide, as something where if the pace feels maybe a little bit off, or I should say, I'm sorry, the effort feels a little bit off and the pace is a little bit in question. If I look at heart rate and it's also saying that, now I've just got another piece of information that's kind of saying the same thing as those other tools. And then the way I like to look at it is, if you got more tools pointing the same direction, it's more likely to be accurate than if, you know, only one is, or if they're pointing in different ways and things like that. So having an idea of kind of where your heart rate sits during like your longer, slower efforts isn't a bad idea, just to kind of give yourself a little bit of a zone or a range to maybe stay within, or a no-go zone perhaps, if you're feeling like you need something to kind of keep the brakes on in the early stages when it's a little easier to try to go faster than you should.
Mm-hmm. Did you have something for us, Lindsay?
Oh yeah. I think everyone's given great advice already, but I'm just going to throw in the elements of weightlifting. And someone did ask in the messaging. I know it's just like one more thing to add to your long list of things, you know, to prepare. But I do think it's really beneficial, especially for these long races, especially the runnable ones like Rocky. Just the somewhat repetitive, you know, like the biomechanics on a rather flat course, it just breaks you down. So I think weightlifting, if you can, even just like once a week, or even just like body weight stuff, just to really strengthen the legs to like prepare you to be as strong as you can at the start line, is very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. So has anybody had you mentioned all the range of experiences with weather in this race, but the warm days to the cold nights, it seems to always surprise some people when it's a big swing. And maybe it's mostly not Texans who are coming in and figuring out the temperature drops, but You guys have probably been to several of those types of situations. And you got any good stories?
Stories
Right.
are countless from Mr. Race Director here, but most of them are actually the same as each other. It's just a lot of confusion over how cold it feels because the cold is wet cold. So we end up with a ton of DNFs actually from people that live in the mountains because the daytime is hot and the nighttime is wet cold. And then that change is so just sudden. And then a lot of people, their stomachs turn because it got hot during the day for the longer races. And then when their stomachs are, causing trouble, then they're not eating and we can't get calories down people. Then we find out they haven't been drinking and then they haven't been peeing and it just gets really bad all of a sudden. Or there's a lot of people that were planning on running and now they're hiking and standing still, moving a little bit, standing still, there's a park bench. I'm going to sit here at this park bench and try to get my wits about me. Well, now I'm all of a sudden shivering and then DNF because we can't get them warmed back up. So we have an unbelievable crew, and there's a lot of people that are like going to be there to help you figure that out. Our aid stations are incredible. Our support team is incredible. Our medical team is incredible. But when it happens out in the middle of the loop, it just really is shocking how cold you can get. So like, it's Texas. I'm going to Texas. It's only, I hear this all the time. It was only 40 degrees, but that could be that we had 78 degrees at the middle of the daytime. So that's just something to think about and kind of to bring layers and to bring clothes, even though it's Texas and even though it's only 40 for the low or only 25 for the low or whatever. And we've had as many people on this panel can tell, and I'm sure about to, we have had summertime filling days and single digits where we were concerned that all of the water, the 1,400 gallons of water was frozen solid before the first lap got going. So, but I'm curious to hear some individual stories of racing in those different climates.
I just want to piggyback on everything you said too. Especially speaking to the newer runners, maybe this is your first time running 100 miles or 50. When you're looking at the weather, don't really look at it in terms of your normal training rounds, like, oh, it's 50 degrees, what would I normally wear? Just remember you've gone X amount of miles beforehand and your body's going to be just really fatigued and tired. So the heat you normally generate to go on your training runs, it just doesn't equate to race day. And just be prepared to be more cold than you're like normally used to, and just have extra layers. And if you don't need them, great, but just might as well have them, right? Because I feel like sometimes or often you just surprise yourself at night how many layers you end up wearing just because of, you might not be eating, like you said, as much, and you've gone so many miles. So it just feels different too when you're deep into a race, the temperature.
I would just say, from a California perspective, I've been quite cold out at Rocky. I mean, the first time I went, I think it was in the 20s, and the start, I had double gloves on. And then the race course itself has a bunch of different microclimates. So there's parts that are like warmer. And then like, I feel like the back 10 miles is like really, really cold because you get the lake effect coming off the lake, which tends to like cool everything down. So definitely, as soon as the sun goes down, it gets really, really cold, and the night will be very, very cold. And then like she just said, your body doesn't regulate temperature as well once everything gets tired. So that nighttime running is going to be cold. So just prepare. I bring a parka and prepare to run in a parka. Bring those hot hands, those little like things that you can put in your gloves for your hands, and maybe even like a beanie that will keep your head warm. But I would prepare for extreme cold.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And I'll add to all that. As a race director perspective, it's temperatures. It's going to be a nice, beautiful afternoon, probably 5 p.m. Beautiful sunset, 65, 70 degrees. An hour later, it's going to be 40, and you make your turn onto the third loop at 4 p.m. Unless you have planned some options for warm clothes at all your drop bags around the loop, you've got hours until you're going to be coming back. So, same thing that goes with your head, when you think about headlamps, like, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't need to grab my headlamp, grab your warm clothes as well. Cause you're not going to be back for a while and temperature's going to drop in between. It may be obvious to everybody else, but it's always interesting to me. Um, Chris, you mentioned that this race has had, so one, two, three. I'm the force race director. Tell us a little bit of that history from the pre-Tejas Trails days, even, and it's Rocky. The name Rocky goes through all of that. Give us the history lesson, Professor.
Yeah, well, so just everyone be aware that I'm going to tell you the stories all secondhand. So who knows if I'm telling the truth or not. But the race director at the beginning, funny stories about him. I never got to meet him personally, but apparently he had like more than one race out there at Huntsville, and they were all called Rocky Raccoon Trail Run. And so this was long before trail running was anything like it is now. And the stories are super funny. Like when Joe and Joyce took the race over, I wish you could hear them talk about going to his shed and getting the different what they thought was going to be equipment for the event production, and it was like literally he had like old raisins and trail mix that he was saving for the next year's race because they weren't completely used at the previous year's race, and so Joe and Joyce took that a long ways forward, we'll say, but the race was literally named Rocky Raccoon, not for anything grandiosely significant or super passionate, but because the guy liked the Beatles, and Rocky Raccoon was the song of choice. So unfortunately, that song is crazy obnoxious if you ever listen to it. But every year I keep thinking that I'm going to start the race to it, and I always forget, maybe on accident purpose. But or just play it for like the first like 4 hours, so everyone hears it during the first lap. But anyway, so that's the literal story of it. And there's it is fitting because if you haven't been out to the park, it's really cool. There's so many raccoons out there. They're crazy though. That's another note for a logistical thing. They do have fingers and they do open things. So think about that with your drop bags. It's not our fault if your things have been opened. It's not from our aid station volunteers snooping. We literally have a raccoon problem, and squirrels too. I have this small story of first year we put the race on. We had a little toddler, and so Mackenzie was like rolling around doing. We're trying to killing ourselves doing logistics, trying to get everything set up, and she just all of a sudden is staring at the top of a 50-foot pine tree, just bawling, just wailing. We're like, run over to her, like, what's wrong? Are you hurt? What hurts? What body part hurts? She can barely talk, and she just wouldn't talk. She's just staring and crying, and she's finally. I look up in the tree, and a squirrel had taken her peanut butter sandwich out of her hand and ran up a tree and was eating her sandwich. So raccoons, squirrels are both a real part of the event, but that's actually not why the race is named what it is. But you're likely to see them out there if you watch the trash dumpsters. They're cute. So other than that, the race grew immediately, which is probably back in Maggie's and some of y'all's listening in timeline, but grew into the USATF National Championships for 100 miles. And the race was originally, well, not originally, but when Joe and Joyce took it over, they made it a 100-miler and 50-miler combined. And the event was one of the first pure 100-mile trail runs in North America. Back then, I mean, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Joe told me that they were like one of 12 that existed, one of 14, something like that. Pretty cool. So it's a big honor to keep this thing going for that reason above any. And but then as things happened and it grew, and people around the nation and around the globe were coming to it, and word was spreading. It was selling out, so they moved it into 2 weekends. So it became Rocky Raccoon 100 and Rocky Raccoon 50, and then when I came on the scene, we were getting requests for the 100K and the 50K distances, and so I went ahead and made that happen. So it became the 100-miler and 100K on the first weekend, and then it's an insane effort. It's kind of like one ongoing trail festival, but it's really two separate major events. So it's quite the beating going from one weekend to the next. But now those races have become their kind of separate sellout races. And there's, of course, the half marathon along with the Rocky 50. So it's 50-mile, 50K, and half marathon. So it's really cool. So now we get to see people come in, and a lot of people, they're doing a half marathon for the first time ever, right? Or they're doing an ultra for the first time ever at 50K distance. And those get me just as stoked as seeing people race, the longest distances. It's quite the honor to see people going for something longer or harder or off-road for the first time. And this is definitely a first-timers race. Largely in part to the crazy volunteer crews that have come together around this thing, and I'm seeing a few of y'all on the stream right now. And it's a huge force. We also partner now with Sam Houston State University, and we get to enjoy. My friend Matt Wagner brings his kinesiology department students to us, and so we get to invest in them and speak to them during their classroom period. But they do a project where they come volunteer. So it's really become a thing that affects the campus of Sam Houston, that affects the city of Huntsville, and means a lot to the city. This is one of the bigger events there outside of the campus activity. So it's just become this really beautiful thing that that what we do each year, ends up representing thousands and thousands of people from the past. So it's very special to us.
Cool. Yeah, it's a great race. Let's talk logistics, crew support kind of thing, for a minute. What have you folks found is the key tips you would give to make sure whether you got spectators that are mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, or you've got the more high-end, crew that's going to be moving around and, feeding you like a little baby bird. So what do you got? We got a little everything here.
For a course like this, I like to think of it as like, am I the crew or am I working with my crew? Because there's going to be chunks of the course where you're crewing yourself through aid stations, and then there's going to be the start finish where you can, meet up with your main crew and see more people and have some more hands on deck. So my process for either one of those is when I'm getting close to an aid station, like maybe a kilometer or a mile or so out, I start thinking, what is it I actually want to get or make sure I accomplish in this aid station? And then I can go in there, I can get that stuff. And then anything I can do outside the aid station while walking, I'm just going to take with me and then head back out on the trail. Because if you're walking, you're still covering some ground. And if you can do it walking easily, then you might as well get yourself out of the aid station and save yourself a little bit of time. Because one thing you'll probably notice if you've done these before, if you're doing it for the first time, you'll find out is the clock moves very fast in the aid station, a lot slower outside the aid station. So if you go into an aid station thinking, all right, I'll figure out what I want to do when I get there, you end up staying quite a while, just kind of poking around, figuring out what you need. So going in with a plan is really helpful. And then when you do have crew support, it is good to have them informed as to like what it is you think that you want them to try to do, because they're going to be very excited to see you, very happy to help. But they may not know exactly what to be doing if they don't have those directives. So I sometimes like to kind of assign some roles if I have more than one person, or if it is just one person, have things kind of categorized as like, this bag has all my night cold weather stuff in it, and this bag has all my nutrition in it. This bag has, it's just so it's kind of easy to be organized, so they can be effective for you when you do get to them. Then also, like, one of the things about this is just breaking things into chunks. So aid stations and seeing a crew are these big difference points where things change, things become new, or things are shifting from one thing to the next. Those shift points are really powerful targets to try to get to, and they can almost help you kind of reset and get ready to do the next section. So the more you can kind of treat that stuff as transition points, or I accomplished that last part, now I can move on to this next, I think is really helpful on the mental side of things.
Cool. Nicole, you mentioned, you're the minimalist, right? So you're not rolling in with a pack to be refilled. How does that play in your mentality as a minimalist?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think this course is so awesome if you like to go that route, because you can really just go into the aid stations and there's such a good variety of offerings depending on what looks good to you. You can stick more to the gels, or you can stick more to sandwiches, right? Or you can have the variety throughout the race. But I think that's what's so advantageous of the setup is you can just use it as your own personal buffet, and it's wonderful. The aid station volunteers are super accommodating, but you can really leave the aid station, to Zach's very good point, take things with you and start moving, which is always key. But I just felt like I didn't have to carry a lot, and that was great. When I first started ultra running, I was very fortunate that Dallas was like 3 hours, I think, or so away from the race. So I would always have my running group that would come over and crew and pace me. So the cool part about this race is you can have people at a variety of different points on the course to watch you. So it's super fun. And you can do it whether I've done some of the races where I have no support crew and I have, like 8 friends out there. So it's really nice. You can do it in a lot of different ways. And I think that's what's so cool about this course.
Awesome. Those are all great things. And I will throw a few things as thinking like a race director, and Chris, you take notes and fill in the things I miss. Pack and pickup will be on Friday night. It's usually parking is not full there at the lodge. During that time, we'll have a pre-race briefing where we'll go over a lot of valuable information there at the Raven Lodge. And then if you have gone to packet pickup, we will have a runner drop-off opportunity at the lodge. So there's parking fills up there at the lodge. The lodge is at the end of the road. So you have a chance to just drop a runner, grab your timing chip, and then find parking, which can be a little farther away, can be a quarter mile, a half mile away. So that's a great way to use that. Show up early. The gate is a one-way in, one-way out, and the park, who do a great job, but still are working on a one-way in plan. And so come early and use that runner drop off. And we will have maps that can tell your spectators, your crew, how to get to aid stations. You can drive to most of them, and the other ones are a 5-7 minute walk on trail. And I don't know, Chris, anything besides the super nitty gritty details that I should probably pass along?
Could I interject? Just
please go ahead.
So I've only ever run Rocky all 4 times solo without a crew. And so I would just, to anybody doing that, it's obviously a very easy race to do that. You're going to want 3 drop bags, and then you're going to want a bag at the main start finish area. And so basically 4 bags total. And then if you do have crew, just think that they can be at the start finish, and then they can be at the 10-mile aid station. So every 10 miles, you'll get crew access. But you don't need them. And the aid stations are so amazing that they will do everything you need that your crew would do at all the aid stations.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I mean, in essence, that's what's cool about this setup, is it works both ways. It's a super fun time if you do have a crew, and it's a great kind of bonding experience. You get to share the adventure together, and it totally works without. And I didn't have a crew my first time racing it. Just had my one pacer that wrecked it for me. We had too much fun on lap 3. But it definitely is convenient either way. And I know a lot of people, though, are picky about diet. And I have to say, major props to our new staff member and friend, Brooke. She's taken everything to a whole new level. And we got to experiment on Bandera runners with some new vegan options and some more dietary restrictive options. That's been really neat to kind of see her take charge of that and progress that. And so we're getting some feedback as we speak. And so there's more than even you guys have experienced coming to Rocky, which is super cool. And, there's this setup of crew members so Dave mentioned, which I'm glad you did, the part about parking is definitely a thing out there. The park's really generous and really is nice to not ticket and tow like they have maybe in some stories from way back in the day that were pretty horrible. But nonetheless, respecting their park rules and not parking where you're not supposed to, they're pretty generous with letting us pack people in. But on that same note, it's cool because your crew can just stroll up the road and shortcut straight to that middle spot that Andy was talking about. And with very short hike, generally speaking, can take the paved sidewalk path up there and meet you there, and then gingerly stroll back to the finish line. So just by going to those 2 spots, they can meet you a ton of times, since it's a loops course, which is super unique compared to, like we've been talking about, like more mountainous or desert or more solitary places. And then from there, the race hub is one of the coolest places on the planet. It gets me so excited. Tent City pops up, so you can bring a big pop-up tent if you want, and people, bring their hammocks and their inflatable mattresses and just go bananas there and make a little home for themselves to relax in between, or for their crew members to relax in. And so it's right next to the lake. For families, the race hub is centered around a playground, so kiddos are running around and they're staying occupied. So it just results in this really cool opportunity for everyone to be there in the middle of the action with you, or if you to take care of yourself, like others have said. So both ways is really convenient.
Good, thanks, Chris. And those options we are adding are for vegan and gluten-free. So we've got something that fit both of those categories, and all the cool stuff like the Oreos and the chocolate chip cookies. All right, we're about at our time. So anybody have any final story you want to share before we sign off?
I did forget. We did forget to introduce like Sydney and Jason in the beginning.
Oh, did we? Well, let's fix that.
Yeah, Sydney from
There she
Garmin, and
is.
then Jason is from Mild Sense Goods. But anyone who's staying at the Halo hotels, he's the community manager. So you guys will see him around, and he's like volunteering all week to help Rocky Raccoon happen and things. So just want to call them out.
Oh, absolutely. Sydney, what are you going to be doing out there for Garmin? You're muted. You're muted. Either that or playing a game on us,
Yeah, it's not her sound's not working.
or your sound's not working.
Sydney, type it in the chat.
Type it in the chat. Yep. I'm gonna think it's what we've seen you do in other things, which is you're set up on all the latest watches and some demo watches, maybe.
What about now?
There you are. We hear you now, Sydney. Go for Sydney. Is it microphone or speaker? Anyways, Sydney will be out there with her smile and Garmin gear. You can go shopping and you can try out watches. And Jason, is Jason on the call?
He's over on tab page 3.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hey, how's our new father doing? What's up? When are we going to see you out there?
I will be out there the whole week before the race. I'm going to try to beat the trailer out there and be getting stuff ready before you guys get there at all. The trails out in Huntsville State Park were the first trails I ever ran on back in like the 90s before I was even considering running ultras. So those are my home trails to me. So yeah, I'll be there. I also, myself and my wife will both be working on the community manager thing through Halo. Along with that, we've got a ton of experience in the area. We live in Houston. We run up there regularly with our run club. So yeah, anything we can help you guys with, we're in for it. We also own Wild Sense, one of the sponsor companies. We make chafing products, recovery products, biodegradable body glitter that you may have seen at Bandera, as well as chafing products have held up the wet year that Lindsay was talking about. My wife ran both the 100 and the 50 miler, and her and all of the other local runners and friends of ours that were using our chafing balm did not get blisters. If you just reapplied whenever you had to change your socks to get the sand out. People have used that in 100 milers with no reapplications, with no issues whatsoever, because it's made a little differently, but we'll save that story for another time. But yeah, anyway, hit us up about anything you need. We're happy to help from one spectrum to the other. So.
And Jason undersells his contribution at this specific race. He's been a wonderful steward of these trails when the floods of 2024 really did some damage. He led with the Houston area trail runners group, a lot of work days out there. And we wouldn't have had a 20-mile loop in 2025 if all Jason and all of the cohort that he represents hadn't done all the work they did. So thank you, Jason.
That whole gang will be at the start finish line aid station too, Tyler's last resort. So yeah, you can thank any of them for any of that.
For sure. Sydney, are you back?
I am. Of course, blame it on the tech issues when I work at home. No, I honestly, I haven't run the race before, but I mean, we've been supporting Tejas Trails. This is now going on year 2 with you guys, so it's been super exciting. Unfortunately, I won't make it out to Rocky, but we did throw some little goodies in those goodie bags that for people who are staying with the Halo team at the hotel. You guys will get some little goodies from us. But I'm excited to see how everything goes for everyone. I'm excited to see how things go for Zach, whichever race you decide to do, man, and Nicole and Lindsay, everybody else. Andy, I'm so stoked to see how everybody does. It's going to be a fun weekend to tune into.
Yep. There's the Garmin watch.
Yes.
The only watch to use, y'all. No other watch works. They're all dumb except for this one.
Yeah.
Raise them up. Raise them up.
Yep. And this is part of the Tejas 250 Garmin Challenge. So you have a chance to maybe win a watch yourself if you come out and get started on the Garmin Challenge. Check it out on our website. Okay, well, wonderful. I'm stoked. I was coming off of Bandera highs. Had to sit at my computer all day today. So now I'm officially stoked for Rocky Raccoon 100 and Rocky 50 by USWE. So thanks everyone for all of your input. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. Appreciate it. I look forward to seeing everybody that's going to be out there in just under a month. So take care.